Hello, I'm Daniel for Coder Prodigy, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to program an optical illusion in Scratch. So here's how the project that we're going to do in this video will look like. We have a backdrop of this pinkish purplish color, and we have a square that rotates in the middle of the screen. And notice that the square doesn't have a fixed color. It rotates, and notice that we have a left side of the square and a right side of the square that have different colors. So it's as if the square is transparent and allows you to see some colors that the backdrop does not allow you to see. So it's as if you're looking through a keyhole. So you're going to learn how to program that in this video. Now, besides that, I have a circle here that follows my mouse, and right now it is on the right side of the screen, and it has the same color as the right side of the square, this bluish purplish color. And if I approach the right side of the square, notice that this circle blends in with the square perfectly. Now, when I take the circle on the left side of the screen, notice that it magically appears orange. And if I put it on the right side, it appears magically bluish yet again. So you can do this as many times as you like. So as you program this project, people will ask you, how did you do that? How does that work? This sounds like magic. So I will teach you how to program this illusion in this video. So obviously the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to navigate to the homepage of the Scratch website, scratch.mit.edu. And I'm assuming that you have an account here on Scratch. And just in case you don't have an account, pause the video now and create an account now. It will only take a couple of minutes, and if you need any help, just ask an adult. It should not take too long. And after you've created an account, go here to scratch.mit.edu and go here where it says My Stuff, this folder icon. This is where you will store all your projects. Now, after you click, you'll be guided to the list of all your projects. I have quite a lot here because I teach kids to code here at Coder Prodigy, and we have a lot of projects, including the ones on this YouTube channel, which I invite you to check out. And I'm going to create a new project here for this video. So click on New Project, and this will be a blank project from scratch that only has a single sprite that looks like a cat. So something like this. Now, the first thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to remove the sprite. So go ahead and click here on this trash can icon and go ahead and create a new sprite for this video. So I'm going to hover over the cat icon here at the bottom, and I'm going to click on this paint icon to create one from scratch. So now we have the costume editor that appears on our screen. And here I'm going to create a sprite that looks a little weird. It looks like two rectangles that fill the entire screen. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on the color selector, and I'm going to select a color. I'm going to keep this purple color over here, but you can choose any color that you like. And once I selected my preferred color, I'm going to click on the square icon, and I'm going to drag a rectangle, like a big, huge purple rectangle. Now, I'm going to make sure that the rectangle that I'm going to draw fills at least half of the screen, and the outline of the rectangle is set to nothing. So I'm going to click on this red stripe over here to remove the edge of the rectangle. Now, once more, I'm going to click on the color selector, and I'm going to select yet another color. I would recommend that you pick a very different color from this purple so that the effect looks more dramatic. So I'm going to pick a orange-like color. All right, so orange is really, really different from purple, and I'm going to drag yet another rectangle that covers at least half of the screen. Now, it's very important that these two rectangles meet in the exact middle of the screen. So this is how we can guarantee that the effect that we see on screen looks perfect. So here's what I'm going to do. After we drag these rectangles on screen, right now they look a little differently. I'm going to go to the code, and I'm going to move this sprite to the middle of the screen so that we can tweak exactly where these two colors should meet. So I'm going to create a small script. I'm going to go to events, and I'm going to drag when flag clicked. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see my code. So when flag clicked, I'm going to move this big sprite to the exact middle of the screen. So I'm going to go to motion, and I'm going to drag the go to block, and I'm going to say X0 and then Y0. Now, once we click the flag, the colors should meet at the middle of the screen, but they might not meet exactly in the middle of the screen. So here's how we can test that. So right now, I'm going to create a clone of the sprite. So I'm going to create yet another one of these big flags, like you see them, and I'm going to make the clone look exactly the opposite of this original sprite. So I'm going to put orange on the left and purple on the right, or whatever colors you picked on your own project. So I'm going to go to Control, and I'm going to create a clone of myself, and I'm going to program the clone as follows. I'm going to say when I start as a clone, I'm going to point in direction opposite to the original sprite. So I'm going to go to Motion, and I'm going to say point in direction, and I'm going to select the opposite direction as normal. So I'm going to select -90 here. Now, after I created the clone, I'm going to make it draw or display on top of this original sprite, and I'm going to make it slightly transparent. So I'm going to go to Looks, and I'm going to say go to Front Layer. So I'm going to display it on top of all the other sprites, and I'm going to set an effect, and I'm going to select the ghost effect. So I'm going to set the ghost effect to exactly 50%. And the end effect is going to be that the orange will be slightly transparent and be displayed on top of the purple, and then a purple would be slightly transparent and display on top of the orange. Now, in the midsection, either two oranges will draw on top of one another, or two purples will draw on top of one another, depending on how you laid out these rectangles. So I'm going to click the flag now, and notice that we have an almost perfect overlap, and we have a pinkish color on the left, a pinkish color on the right, and a small, very, very small stripe here in the middle. So if I make this a little bigger, notice that we have a orange stripe on the right. So I'm going to change the costume here so that the orange side of my original sprite is slightly smaller. So I'm going to go to Costumes, and I'm going to click my pointer arrow, my selector over here. I'm going to select the orange rectangle, and I'm going to move it slightly to the right. And notice that once I move it slightly to the right, we have a purple stripe in the middle. So we have to make these two halves of the sprite meet exactly in the middle. So I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to scroll to the middle over here, and I'm going to make sure that the orange part meets exactly in the middle of the original sprite until I have no more stripes, either with orange or with purple. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to make sure that they meet exactly in the middle. Zoom it further, drag it something like that, and we should have an orange perfect overlap with the purple. So we need to have an overall blend of the screen that looks uniform, that is, have the same color on both the left half and the right half. Now, depending on the colors that you picked for the left half and the right half, your overall color on the screen might be different than mine, but I obtained here a pinkish color. So this pink color is obtained from blending the colors purple and orange. That's how these two clones are laid on top of one another. So we have the original sprite with half purple, half orange, and then the clone with half orange, half purple, and half transparent. So that will mean that the orange will blend on the purple on the left, and the purple will blend on the orange on the right. And these two, because I set the ghost effect to exactly 50%, so that means I get half orange, half purple on both sides of the screen, that means I will get the same pink color on the entire stage. Now, here's why this happens. Let me go drag on the stage. Notice that I'm dragging the clone that has half orange, half purple. So notice that I have the original sprite, half purple, half orange, and now I'm dragging the clone, which is half orange, half purple flipped. So if I place it anywhere on the stage, notice that the clone is half transparent. So when I have purple on top of purple, we get the original purple color. And whenever we have orange on top of purple or purple on top of orange, we get this pinkish color. So this is why I've placed this clone in the exact middle of the screen so that we can get the exact same pinkish color on both the left and the right sides of the screen. So we have the first part of the project, which is making sure that we have the same color on both the left and the right side of the stage. Now, depending on which colors you picked for the original sprite, you might get a different color here as your blend. All right. Now, I'm going to create another sprite. So I'm going to hover over the cat icon and I'm going to click paint again. And I'm going to draw a white square. So I'm going to click on the square icon and I'm going to select from color and I'm going to drag the second slider all the way to the left so that I have a white color. So now I'm going to click anywhere on the screen and I'm going to hit both Alt and the Shift key. I'm going to keep them pressed on my keyboard so that I can draw a perfect square. So not any rectangle, but a perfect square. So release. You can drag as big a rectangle as you like. I'm going to leave it at that. And I'm going to make sure that the center of the rectangle overlaps with the center of the sprite. So make sure that the center of the square, the little blue cross over there, matches exactly with the black cross of the sprite. So this will be the exact center of the sprite. So now notice we have a white square on the screen. All right, cool. So now I'm going to name the sprite. I'm going to name this square. Okay, and I'm going to make sure that at the beginning of the game or of the project, I'm going to make sure that the square stays in the center of the stage. So I'm going to go to code and I'm going to create a small script. When flag clicked, I'm going to go to X0 and Y0. So now notice what happens. I'm going to hit the flag now and notice that we have a very interesting color effect here. Now, let's explain why this happens. I'm going to go to my original sprite, the flag one. I'm going to actually name this flag so that I can give it a better name. And when the clone appears on the screen, instead of keeping it to the center of the screen exactly covering the entire stage, I'm going to move it down a little bit. So I'm going to say go to X0 and Y, let's say -100 or something like that. And I'm going to hit the flag. I'm actually going to say -200 or something so I can show you what's happening. -300. All right, notice what's happening here. So we have here at the top, we have the original flag with purple on the left, orange on the right. Then we have the white square drawn on top of that, and this is the white square that you know. And on top of the white square, we have the clone, which is half orange, half purple, with 50% ghost effect. That is half transparent. So this is why you see here at the bottom left corner of the square a very light, very wiped orange and a very light purple here on the right. That's because of the ghost effect of the clone of the flag, which draws on top of the square. So these are the light orange and light purple. Now, below that, we have light orange combined with purple, which is this pink color, and light purple combined with orange, which is the same pink color at the bottom. So you have kind of like a sandwich of sprites here. You have the original flag, purple, orange, at the bottom, the clone of the flag with orange, purple at the top, and with the white square in between them. So you have this very interesting color effect. So if I make this clone go back to X0 and Y0, we get this very interesting effect where the square, because it's in the middle, has this very interesting color effect where it's not pink as the rest of the stage, but it's instead half orange, half purple. And this is true regardless of where this square lives on the screen or in what rotation it has. So I'm going to create that very interesting visual effect where I'm going to rotate the square very slowly. So I'm going to go to Control and I'm going to drag a forever loop. And inside the forever loop, I'm going to turn the square very slowly by 1 degree. So I'm going to go to Motion and I'm going to turn it right by 1 degree. So now when I hit the flag, notice what happens. The square rotates, but the exact same color effect happens regardless of where or how the square looks like on the screen. We have light orange on the left and purple on the right and pink on the rest of the stage. So this is a very interesting color effect. Now, on the same idea, I'm going to create another white sprite that looks like a circle, and I'm going to make that circle move with my mouse. So I'm going to hover over the cat icon, click on paint, and I'm going to make sure that I select the white color over here. So I'm going to drag saturation, the second slider to the left, and brightness, the third slider to the right. All right. And now I'm going to click on the circle icon. So I'm going to drag a circle. And I'm going to make sure that we draw a perfect circle. So I'm going to hold the shift key on my keyboard so I can drag a perfect circle. And I'm going to leave it at that. And this circle is going to be in the center of the costume editor over here. So I'm going to make sure that the center of the circle overlaps perfectly with the black cross in the middle of the square over there. All right, cool. So if you find the square is too small or too big, you can make it, you can drag it from one of the corners and make it smaller or bigger, but make sure that the center of the circle overlaps perfectly with the center of the editor over here. Okay, cool. So we have our little circle, and I'm going to name this circle. Okay. Now, make sure I write correctly. Okay, cool. Now, I'm going to program the sprite to follow my mouse always. So I'm going to go to events, and I'm going to say when flag clicked, and I'm going to drag a forever loop, and I'm going to always move the sprite to the mouse cursor. So I'm going to go to control, and I'm going to drag a forever loop, and from the motion block, from the motion section, I'm going to drag this go to, and from the drop down, I'm going to select mouse pointer. So now this circle will always follow my mouse, and the circle will have the exact same color effect as the square because when I program the flag, when the clone starts, it goes to the front layer. So whatever other sprites are on or in this project, this clone will sandwich those in between the original flag and this new sprite, right? So this circle, this white circle that I've created over here will also be sandwiched in between the flag and its opposite, its mirrored version. So now when I hit the flag, notice that we have the same color effect that we had earlier with the square half orange, half purple, and now we have our square which follows the mouse. Now, the interesting bit is that because the circle is white, the circle will have the exact same color effect like the square. So if I place the circle in the left side of the square, notice that it will blend perfectly with the square. And if I drag it all the way through the right side of the square, it will appear purple. That is because the circle does the exact same thing as the square. So on the left side of the screen, we have the clone of the flag, which is light orange, and on the right we have that light purple over there. So depending on where the circle is on the screen, it will look light orange or light purple. But if you want to impress your friends or your parents or your grandparents with what you've programmed, you should drag your circle through one side of the square, so notice that it blends perfectly, and drag it through the other side of the square with a magically different color. So something like that. That looks like a magic trick. And you can play around. You can move the circle wherever you like, and you can make it take a different color. All right. Now, I'm going to add one last touch to this project, and I'm going to make this flag take different colors in time. So not just purple and orange, but other colors as well. So I'm going to go to control here. I'm going to click on the flag. I'm going to go to control, and I'm going to drag a forever loop. And I'm going to drag two other blocks. I'm going to wait a little bit. So I'm going to wait, I'm going to say 0.1 seconds, so a small amount of time. And I'm going to broadcast a message. And at that message, I'm going to program both the original flag and its clone to take a slightly different color. So let me go to events, and I'm going to broadcast a small message. I'm going to name this change color. All right, so this message change color will happen very, very quickly, and I'm going to make both the original flag and its clone change color very slightly. So I'm going to drag a script when I receive change color, so both the original flag and its clone will run the script when the change color message is broadcast. So I'm going to say, when I receive change color, I'm going to go to looks, and I'm going to say change color effect by, and I'm going to place a very, very small amount here. I'm going to say change color effect by 1. And if I hit the flag now, notice what happens. Notice that our backdrop changes colors very slightly, from pink to yellowish to green to blue to all sorts of colors depending on how you pick the colors in the first place. And the visual effect that we have is still the same. So if you go through the square, you'll notice that the circle changes color on the other side. All right. So this is the final project in this video. I hope you like it, and I hope you impress your friends and family with this visual effect that you've programmed. I'm Daniel, and I teach kids to code here at Coder Prodigy. I'll be seeing you in the next video.